tonight because he has some business to attend to. So I'm going to ask that between Paula and Tiffany, if you would just jot down at least the major items and email them to him afterwards. And between that and the recording, he can prepare our minutes for next month. Recognition of our guests. We have two guests joining us tonight. Doug Jones from SEIU, who will be speaking a little later on. And we have Carolyn Fowler, who most of you, I'm sure, already know, but she is a candidate for, if I have this correct, controller of the state party, and she'll be speaking to us about that race in just a minute. So thank you both for joining us. Tom, if you'd like to pull up the land acknowledgement, we'll tap Supervisor Brown to read it tonight.
Sure thing. Well, there you go.
Thank you. We pause to acknowledge that the Solano County Democratic Central Committee of the Democratic Party sits on the land of the Miwok and Padawan people. We remember their continued connection to this region and give thanks to them for allowing us to live, work, learn, and pray in their traditional homeland. We offer our respect to their elders and the Miwok and Padawan people of the past and present.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And moving on to approval of the minutes for February. Did anyone have any additions, corrections, or deletions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
And
Okay.
second by Vernil.
All right. Moved and seconded. We could launch the poll.
Oh, hold on. Sorry, the wording was wrong on that.
Okay.
Let me just quickly fix it.
Okay. Everyone vote who's planning on voting.
What is the vote, or what is the total that we need for a quorum?
We need 14 for a quorum.
Okay, we have 13 voting and 2 abstaining. Does that count?
If they have voted to abstain, yeah, that would count. As long as we have a quorum for the meeting, we're good.
Okay.
Right.
Passes.
Thank you. And moving on to the March agenda.
Don, I think you're
Approve the March agenda. This is Paula.
Okay,
Second, Tiffany.
seconded by Tiffany. All right. I see no hands for changes. So we'll go ahead and launch that poll. If everyone, the voters is going to vote, please vote.
Many people in there, but only 15 are voting. That's right.
And the agenda passes. Moving on to public comments starting at 7:10 p.m. First individuals already joining us to speak, Carolyn Fowler. As I've said before, she is a candidate for controller for the state party. So, Ms. Fowler, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Don. And Carolyn is good. Miss Fowler is my mother. Greetings, Solano County. Hope you guys are staying dry. It's pretty windy down here with the rain. I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that a couple of weeks ago, our current controller, former controller now, April Verrett, resigned, which was a good opportunity for her. She's now executive secretary for SEIU International, 800,000 employees. And the back and forth is just too much for her. So she officially has moved. She asked me to run in her place and I accepted, and I'm going to do that. I'm proud of my record. Not only as your DNC member, but as your Women's Caucus chair, and also currently your Justice, Equity, Diversity co-chair, which I will be stepping down at convention from that because I do believe the controller position has a lot more opportunities to be supportive. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'm going to send some information to all of you, actually, all the delegates, and I'll send something in early to your chair so he can distribute that. But I would like to have a conversation at some point, maybe the next meeting, so I'm available for questions and can share a little more about me, my role in the party, and what I see as important. So with that, thank you so much. Glad to join you this evening.
All right. Does anyone have a quick question to ask at this time? Or as we said, we can bring you back in for a fuller conversation next month. So does I don't see any hands up. So well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the
Thanks.
time to visit with us. We look forward to getting your information.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay on just to kind of hear what's going on in Solano, if that's okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who has public comment at this time? Don't see any hands. So we are closing public comment at 7:13. Next up, are there any announcements that anyone wishes to make at this time?
Actually, I do have an announcement.
All right.
There is a town hall. I know Monica's attending on just next week, a week from today, at the Foley Cultural Center here in Vallejo. It is focused on a tobacco retail license for the city of Vallejo. There are a coalition of organizations going. I'm an advisor to the Solano County the Solano Department of Health program for their TFS program is Tobacco Free Solano. And it's from 5 to 9, I think. But if you want any more information, please let me know.
All right. Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, I'm seeing none. Next up is our treasurer's report. Paula, you're up.
Okay, well, you should all have gotten the report. Sorry, I didn't send it out till this afternoon. We have about $2,000 in the bank. Dues are due this coming month. If you want to be able to vote in May, you need to pay your dues sometime in April. The link to do that is at the bottom of the treasurer's report. There's actually 2 links, one's federal and one's state. If your club is paying your dues, you should use the state link. If it's your own personal money, you can use the federal link. If you're not sure which one to use the state link. Not much going on lately in terms of what we're spending. Anyone have any questions about the report?
Actually, just to clarify, to make sure that it's on the record, we have not yet repaid the loan for the door hangers, correct?
Correct. And we have not yet cashed the double good check, although I think I do finally have all of the info. So by this time next month, we will have another $900. That's about the difference between what the double good check is and what is owed for the door hangers.
Okay, I appreciate that. And thank you for staying on top of that so that all of everyone's hard work is rewarded by being able to cash that check. Thank you.
Do we need to approve the report?
It's a factual item. It doesn't need approval.
Okay.
Next up is officers' reports. I've had the opportunity to join my usual round of clubs this month and hear what's going on with our different organizations. And I will just say, as always, I hope to make the rest of the clubs and encourage you to please send me an invitation to your next meeting so I can try to attend it. And I did want to share one item that came up at the Northern Solano Democratic Club meeting. There will be a Trans Day of Visibility down at the County Government Center next Friday, March 31st, beginning at 4 p.m. We like to encourage everyone who is free to attend to please do so in solidarity with our siblings who are being targeted by so many from the other party. And those of, I don't know if the county gets Cesar Chavez Day off, but I know our state employees certainly should have that day off and be able to attend. So, well, supervisors, we should work on that and put that as a holiday for our county employees. I'll just say that to those who are shaking their heads no. Other than that, I do not have much to report.
It's a negotiated item.
Well, then SEIU should negotiate better. I will say that there were plenty of rumors about various candidates running for various offices, everything from city council to board of supervisors to assembly and senate. However, until people start making their announcements official, they remain rumors. So I just encourage you all to encourage good Democrats to run for office, but not too many of them, so that we don't give up seats to Republicans. Northern Vice Chair, do you have anything to report?
Just to update on our fundraiser efforts. We are planning a fundraiser on May 20th. It's a barbecue in the park, Allenwood Park. The fundraising committee has been meeting bi-weekly, and we've been making progress on our planning. We ran into a little glitch with our special events permit, not on our end, but it was taken care of, but now we're trying to put some expedite the approval process. And our activities for this event so far be an art auction. We're having artists donate their creativity, and a dessert auction. But we're still in the planning phase, but we are moving forward with it. And everyone's welcome to be a part of the planning. The invite goes out to the whole central committee if you want to be a part of it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Southern Vice Chair, anything to report this month? Did we lose her? Tiffany, did you have anything to report this month?
No, I don't have necessarily a report, but just wanted to let everybody know that, and we talked about this in the executive board meeting, I'm finalizing the fact sheet for Assembly Bill 597 through Assembly Member Lloyd Wilson's office. So once that fact sheet is finalized, we'll be able to get that to you all. So that's my report.
Thank you. Information resource officer, anything to report?
Just one item that will be coming up at the next meeting. We are going to have to change our ISP. Right now, Joe Summers is paying for our domain, but we will be changing the domain holder for the SolanoDemocrats.com. So just an FYI on that. That will be coming to the committee next month.
Okay, if we can get the details and estimated cost as soon as possible, so that we can let our members see it ahead of time, I'd appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Yeah, make sure she's not. And I don't see a parliamentarian with us this evening, so moving on to elected officials reports. We to this meeting as Congressman Thompson's representative. Anything that you wish to report this evening?
Don, you broke up a little bit.
Jerry Castanon, do you have anything to report as Mike Thompson's representative?
No, just that report I sent earlier in the month, and I don't have the most current.
All right, thank you. And again, welcome back. Don't see James with us. And anything to report from Assemblymember Wilson's office? If not, moving on. Supervisor Brown, do you have anything to report?
If you don't get my newsletter, email me, but I try to keep everything in there. So
All right.
nothing new, except Lake Berryessa has at least 5 years worth of water. Please conserve.
All right, and Supervisor Williams, do you have anything to report?
Well, hello, everyone. It's good to be here with you tonight. Well, I just want to share out of my office. We have been working with the Solano Farm Bureau and the Solano, our vintners and growers in reference to the Farm Bill. And so we met with them. We were able to retrieve their talking points and some of their information. And so we have presented that information to Congressman Garamendi, Senator Padilla, and we'll be meeting with him next week as well. Additionally, our legislative team is utilizing those talking points in their legislative packet that will be going to our federal representatives. So that is really something great. Additionally, we did also acknowledge Women's History Month and the Farm Bureau as well for National Farm Month as well. So we're just making sure that we're trying to cover all the different holidays and things coming out of my office to acknowledge those who have, worked so tirelessly for our county. But you had mentioned about Caesar Savage Day, but we don't even celebrate Juneteenth. So yeah, there's some more bargaining that definitely needs to happen. I know they can use it currently as a floater, but I just feel like that should be a federal holiday that we are observing, and it is not being observed. So just wanted to put that out there. And again, thank you for this opportunity to share what we've been doing out of our office. We're actually coming to a close of our first 100 days in office, and so we will be putting out our first newsletter after that time. So more information on that to come. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. And let me just say that if either your office or either of our congressional offices feel that there's something in the Farm Bill that perhaps the Central Committee should be advocating for, certainly share us that information so that we can do so. We're well aware of how important the Farm Bill is to all of us.
Well,
So,
we'll
thank
definitely
you.
send that over. I'll ask Bridget to send that over. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Moving on to our clubs. Jewish Democratic Club, anything to report?
Yes, and thank you for asking. Hey, good to see everybody. We actually did have a really successful event. I'm going to go ahead and post that in the comments if people want to reference it. We have it fully recorded. We were proud to say that we had, I think, at one point over 100 people that came to watch our event. We had, someone who was actually on Biden's short list to be the director of the CIA, a Black Jewish person, and a couple of Black Jewish DEI directors, as well as Vlad Kuiken, talk about the history of Jewish and Black solidarity throughout American history, and also the impacts of the Soviet anti-Zionism campaign on that relationship, as well as we also touched on how COINTELPRO, FBI, and American national intelligence agencies work to sabotage that relationship with propaganda and other things. And we hope to build on this ongoing dialogue and to mirror that in our own interactions here in Solano County. And we look forward to putting on an event around that soon. We also want to thank Wanda Williams for having come and spoken to our club and for her participation and sharing with us her program and hopefully we look forward to working more closely with her in the future. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Solano Democratic Workers Alliance.
Thank you, Chair. I believe we have a hand up from Supervisor Brown. I'll defer and then I'll report.
Oh, Monica.
Yeah, thank you. I just got a text from Steve Quinlan. He needs somebody to send him a link. I never got one. He reached out to Tom and Corey, but no reply. I know Corey's not here and I know Tom's, doing what he needs to do. So if someone could send him the link, that would be great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Glenn, it's hard when you're the chair to see everything. Thanks, guys.
He was sent the link. Everyone was sent the link. Did you not get it? Did people get that email at 6 o'clock?
I personally did, just Steve Quinlan saying he didn't. So he texted me.
Okay.
If you could
will.
kindly resend it to him.
Good.
And apparently,
Thank you, guys.
Yvonne Camper from the Revista Club has also just sent an email saying she's got some issues as well. With that, next up is Stonewall Democratic Club.
Mr. Chair, I have to report first.
Oh, I just wanted to
No.
make your comments as the report. Sorry about
We
that.
don't give the longest reports, but it's okay. Thank you. No, super quick. Thanks everyone. Glenn Laval, President of Solano Democratic Workers Alliance. Wanted to thank everyone again who participated in the strategic planning. I think that was a very productive session. SDWA was happy to bring in a number of strategic recommendations, and I think every single participant in that room from all the different Democratic clubs and parts of the Democratic Party definitely brought a really great focus for what we could be doing over the next year and a half to be building up our local capacity, talking between stakeholders, and of course, building up our political program. So definitely excited to be engaged wherever we can in the further development of those strategic recommendations, particularly within the several committees of this central committee. Our next meeting to be hosted next Tuesday, 6 p.m. on Zoom, scheduled next Tuesday, the 28th. Anyone who wants to attend, please feel free to reach out. Primarily discussing not just the ongoing implementation of the strategic recommendations from the retreat last month, but also further discussions and advocacy in advance of the CDP convention in May. And that would conclude my report, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, and I apologize for wanting to fast track the meeting. Moving on now to Stonewall. Do you have a report?
Yeah, we will be meeting on Thursday, March 30th for our first quarter meeting to close out the quarter and plan our next quarter. So please join us if you want. It will be on Zoom. That's it.
Thank you. And then I know that Northern Solano Club, Progressive Democrats, Rio Vista, and United Dems all submitted written reports. Do any of you have anything that you have a burning need to add before we move on? Not seeing any hands up. Okay, good. With that, we will move on to committees. Our bylaws and rules committee chair is not with us this evening. Finance committee, Paula, I think we communicated by email earlier. My understanding is you're planning on meeting after the convention. Is that correct?
Per our bylaws, this committee has to have me, the secretary, one of the vice chairs, and 3 regular members. So I figured Vernil doesn't really have the bandwidth until after the May 20 event, since she is so involved in putting that together. So yeah, so we will meet sometime in June.
Okay.
And I will need a few more people.
Okay. We've already heard from the fundraising committee regarding the May barbecue. I will just add to that I believe Julia is working on a flyer for that to announce it. And as soon as that's prepared and we can confirm all the finalize the pricing information, we'll be sending that out. And I will encourage all of you who belong to organizations or have contact with elected officials to start hitting them up for sponsorships early and often so that we can pay for the event and raise the money that we're hoping to raise. Technology committee, Tom, do you have anything to report on that committee?
Yeah, we will be meeting next month for the first time to talk about how we can support the event and what else needs to be done for that.
All right, club coordination, anything to report, Jeannie?
No, thank you, Dawn.
All right, thank you. Legislation committee, Bonnie.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So we will be revving up. I believe plan to meet sometime maybe mid-April. There's quite a list of folks who expressed interest in being on the committee. And if you haven't already expressed interest, if you are interested, could you put it in the chat or private message me, and I will put my email in the chat as well. There will be 3 issues that'll come up later in the agenda, which Dawn has very thoroughly addressed, and I guess there will be some discussion about it. And also if folks have legislation they're interested in us looking at and determining whether we're going to follow or not. But boy, there are a lot of good bills out there in a lot of different areas. So we'll plan to roll your sleeves up because there's going to be a lot to do. But at this point, not quite sure when, what day and so forth, but we'll figure that out. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And look forward to hearing from you as soon as the dates are set, and we can send that out. And for the outreach committee, Tiffany contacted me a little while ago, said that due to some work issues, she was having to step back from the original plan to chair it. So I have asked Julia Rawson Thomas to serve as the interim chair of the outreach committee and take that committee forward to achieve the goals that we had talked about, reaching out with connecting with our partner organizations. And I would like to again ask all of you who are interested in joining that committee, please contact Julia or myself and let us know so that we can get that list to her and get that committee moving forward. We had, as you will recall, we had a good discussion about our goals for that committee at the strategic planning session, and would like to implement those objectives as soon as possible. So, right. Make sure I'm not missing any hands before I move on. Next item, moving on to business. We received a number of requests for support of particular bills. First item is support for ACA 5, marriage equality, being sponsored by Assemblymember Lowe. In a nutshell, he has put forward intent language to remove the current Prop 8 language saying that only marriage between a man and a woman shall be recognized in California with language supportive of marriage equality. Since he does not have final language, posted yet. I took the sample support letter and wrote it as a supporting in concept and urging inclusive language. And hopefully you all had a chance to read your emails on that information, as well as the accompanying fact sheet that was available. And welcome any feedback on that or any motion if there is no discussion.
So moved to support.
Second.
Moved by Bonnie, seconded by Tom, and then Monica, your hand's up.
So this is to codify it, right? I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah, the goal would be to replace the current language with language that would support marriage equality in case, as we said in the letter, in case the Supreme Court decides to take up Justice Thomas's suggestion and reverse marriage equality.
I just wanted to make sure, because sometimes a yes is a no and a no is a yes. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
All right. So any, again, any questions, comments, discussions on this? Don't see anyone. Paula.
I'm in favor of it. I would move to, well, yeah, I'm in favor of it. That's all I want to say. I think it's a good deal and we should support it.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other hands. So do we have a poll ready for this, Tom?
Yes, we do.
Please launch. All those voting aye. All those voting aye.
We have 10 seconds. Motion passes unanimously.
Good. Thank you all. I appreciate that. Next up, we have request to support SB 525 from Senator Durazo, and we do have a speaker who is joining us. Make sure he's patiently with us. So Doug Jones with SEIU, if you would care to briefly explain your bill and then answer any questions that people might have.
Yeah, Chair Lowry, I really appreciate you helping me get this to the Central Committee tonight. Doug Jones, political organizer, SEI United Healthcare Workers, worked with the county party frequently in past years, helping move support for bills that seek to reform the healthcare industry. And we've been largely successful. Most of the bills that you've joined us in supporting have passed the legislature and signed into law. The most recent was what ended up being a 2-year effort to create a bonus payment to healthcare workers in order to stabilize the workforce during the long pandemic that we've been going through. Well before the pandemic, California was already facing a shortage of healthcare workers, and obviously, the significant suffering and death that has taken place in the community and the looming has exacerbated the looming healthcare shortage. The good news is that at the end of the last budget session, the state legislature finally did get around to passing bonus payments of up to $1,500 to both hospital workers and clinic workers in order to help encourage them to stay in the field and to encourage people to join the field. But as you can imagine, a one-time payment of $1,500 is nowhere near what needs to happen in order to deal with an aging population, a population that has gone through a pandemic, and many of them going through long COVID, and a healthcare workforce which is significantly reduced and leaving the profession and not attracting new employees in order to fill the holes. It's the healthcare workforce shortage is well documented. I'm sure you've seen reports in the news about delays in care, even amongst very, very wealthy companies like Kaiser. And that's been a very disappointing thing to see happen. And, we're determined to do something about this. Across the healthcare system, executives have been squeezing wages and staffing in order to extract profits from care. One of the things that was, a concern in the early days of the pandemic is that this might be difficult for the finances of healthcare providers. Well, the verdict is in. It's been a boon to healthcare providers. The hospitals in the state of California in the years 2020 and 2021 made a cumulative $20 billion in profit. The nursing homes in the state of California made nearly $2 billion in profit, $1.6 billion. And even the primary care clinics, which disproportionately are safety net providers in the state of California, made over $750 million in these last 2 years. So unfortunately, during the same period of time, healthcare workers or healthcare employers were getting tons of money from hospitals to physicians groups to community clinics from state and federal government, supplemental pandemic funding from the government. Simultaneously, that was largely placed into their investment funds and other executive pay. And unfortunately, they have not created the level of compensation that's necessary to keep people in the healthcare field and to do a more effective job to recruit people into the field. And this is a very costly thing, not just in terms of quality care and delays in care, but it's costly to the employers, right? The high turnover rates that we have in hospitals and in clinics. So for example, nursing assistants at California nursing homes in 2021, over 51% turnover in the nursing clinic positions in nursing homes. Staff turnover at community clinics in 2022 is 30%. When we have this level of churn, obviously that means that less experienced healthcare workers replace them if they get replaced at all. And obviously it's very costly to the employers to do all that education and training for their new staff workforce. So it's necessary for us to create a circumstance in which these healthcare providers who are making lots of money at this time are sufficiently regulated so that we can solve the healthcare staffing crisis. So Senator Maria Elena Durazo, who has a disproportionate number of safety net healthcare hospitals and clinics in her Senate district, is the author of Senate Bill 525, which would create a $25 minimum wage for the vast majority of healthcare jobs in the state of California. It's necessary to, and it would have a cost of living increase for every year after that initial year. But that would be the only year in which there would be like a set pay rate that would be created by the bill. So one of the things that was told to us by the business industry, including the healthcare industry, when we set the best minimum wage standards in the state of or in the United States a few years ago, is that it was going to cause mass unemployment. Well, where is unemployment now? It's exceedingly low. So it's really important that we pass this bill, and I'm ready to answer any questions that might come up in the course of the Central Committee's consideration of supporting this bill. By the way, the request that we have of the Central Committee is to authorize the chair to write a letter in support of Senate Bill 525 to the appropriate bodies. At this time, that would be the chair of the Senate Labor Committee, where the bill is going to be heard soon, with a copy to the author of the bill.
Excuse me, Monica, your hand's up.
Well, Doug, if we want to really, because I'm the chair of the Area Agency on Aging for Napa Solano this year, if we really want to work on having healthcare, especially by 2030, in terms of making sure we have nurses and et cetera, work on some bills where we pay the tuition. And if they put so many years in, we pick up the tab and they don't have to pay for it. The other is that community colleges are very good at working out with CNA, LVNs and RNs. The problem is we're not getting enough money from the state in order to expand our education. So, I mean, just something to think about. I have no problem raising the minimum wage with anything. It'd be interesting in your dialogue as to how much money is paid to in and out workers now, because I'm sure they've got to be up there close to 24, 25.
In
But
fact,
we just need other help like that. You are more in a position than I am, or probably most everybody here, to start advocating for that, because if we really want to make long-term changes, that's what we need.
I appreciate the fact, Supervisor Brown, that you brought that up, because one of the challenges that healthcare employers are finding these days is that a person absolutely can find a job at fast food, at retail, that pays more or comparably to the extraordinarily high stress, often dangerous work at a healthcare facility in the middle of a pandemic, which is now continuing into an endemic. So the fact that indeed workers with the current job market have places to go means that healthcare employers need to do something to compete more successfully. And the patients and the communities that they take care of need those workers in those facilities.
Okay. Bonnie, your question, please.
Yes, just first of all, I just want to echo what Supervisor Brown said and just add if there were a loan repayment program as well. But the other thing, I know that the California Medical Association has an opposed unless amended position at this point. And I think that their concern is for small physician practices, that the cost might be too much for them. However, I totally agree with that. We need good folks in providing support in healthcare, and it is a very stressful environment. So, I agree with the request for higher wages. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands up, so I have two additional questions for our speaker. One, would this bill place an untenable cost burden on nonprofit and publicly funded hospitals, clinics, and other providers, particularly those in rural areas and those whose primary clientele rely on Medicare and Medi-Cal?
It's a really good question. So our estimation currently is that the increase to a $25 minimum wage for healthcare workers and what that would do to the wage tables in the market would in the first year of implementation would cost approximately 1% of total healthcare spending across all payer sources. So this is a very, very small portion of the overall expenses that the healthcare industry has. For subsequent years, the increase would be significantly less because it wouldn't be taking them up to $25. It would merely be taking them up to a cost of living increase on a yearly basis. So while the hospital industries recently made claims that providers lose money on Medicare and Medi-Cal patients, this analysis ignored significant pools of supplemental funding that they receive in addition to their base payment rates from public payers. And then the public providers, Chair, that you're concerned about, nursing homes, certain clinic types, they may be able to get state support for their increases due to Medicaid funding methodologies. So public hospitals, for example, I know that Solano County and nearby Napa County don't have a public hospital, But public hospitals, for example, are typically reimbursed from Medi-Cal at cost. They get a reimbursement rate for those safety net providers that is superior to what a private provider like Kaiser might make, for example. And our statewide healthcare workers union has fought for many years to do something about Medi-Cal reimbursement rates. Medi-Cal reimbursement rates are shamefully low, and it's one of the things that makes it hard for Medi-Cal beneficiaries to gain access to care. So anything that is done in the course of this bill and the budget, because the important thing to know is that the budget can supply extra funding to Medi-Cal and target that funding so that it makes sure that these safety net healthcare providers that don't have the profits that Kaiser do are able to afford the regulation that would allow them to compete more successfully for healthcare workers. Because those safety net healthcare clinics, they typically are a farm team to the Kaisers and the Sutters and the other big facilities, right? And that's not what we want out of our safety net healthcare clinics. We want people that can stay there, and we want those clinics to be able to recruit staff and have sufficient staff to take care of the community. Unfortunately, what's happening now is that a good healthcare worker at a clinic typically will work a year or two and then find a good job at a hospital that pays them much more. And that's not what we want for our clinics.
Glenn, your hand's up.
Yeah, no, I think, from what Doug has presented here, this very, very powerful legislation that is pretty consistent with democratic values, given that you're seeing support for workers here. These healthcare workers that endured what, fingers crossed, once in a century event, we can all hope, but they endured, they were there serving on the front lines through that terrible ongoing tragedy that is COVID at great risk to their own lives. They've been called heroes from all levels of our society, but we all know that actions speak louder than words, and supporting those workers and keeping them at a very robust wage and beyond is more than what they deserve at the very minimum. They deserve that support, being there on the front lines for all of us to get those kinds of strong wages and support in turn. I believe this is also compatible with our values of proper provision and expansion of healthcare services, because we all know that understaffing, as it is in our schools and in other public services and other essential services, will undermine people's access to healthcare, particularly in those communities where the staff are needed the most, such as what Doug has described. And so I would definitely articulate strong support for this measure. Thank you.
Question that's posted in chat. What is the average wage for a nurse's aide presently?
So the wage varies widely depending on the facility you work at and whether you have a collective bargaining process or not. But one stat I can share that answers that question in a fairly essential way is that 32% of California workers in healthcare and social assistance industries are paid $18 or less. So a significant portion of healthcare workers in the state of California are paid wages that oftentimes put them on public assistance. About the same percentage of people, about 1/3 of healthcare workers are paid $18 or less. About that same percentage, 33% of nursing assistants working in, well, this one's specific to nursing homes in California, rely on some form of public assistance.
Last question. What impact would this bill likely have on healthcare premiums, particularly those on covered California?
So Chair Lowry, interested in kind of digging into the idea around that question. Are you thinking that the people that would gain in wages would fall out of the Medi-Cal market and into the covered California? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I am trying to, honestly, I'm trying to anticipate the arguments of the opposition that raising healthcare workers' pay would lead to increases in our health insurance premiums, particularly those on covered California, being on the exchange at the low end of the insurance market.
Yeah. Well, there's only one major health provider in the state of California that's its own insurer, and that's Kaiser. And we've already heard that Kaiser has money to burn. So if they try to put that over on the public, we know they're fibbing. They've got plenty of additional profits sloshing around. That $20 billion that I shared with you earlier, that hospitals in the state of California made during the pandemic, over half of that was Kaiser. To give you an idea about that amount of money. From the standpoint of its effect on the insurance market, insurance companies are making a lot of money too. So the market has to bear a relationship with what people are willing to put up with. And obviously, if one of the things that the state of California is capable of doing is putting in consumer protections at the local and state level. So if in response to a piece of legislation, the insurers and the providers try to jack up Covered California, which by the way, is also a government mechanism, which is overseen by the insurance commissioner. The insurance commissioner is fully capable of saying, you're not asking for reasonable rate increases here. They have the capability of regulating them through the Covered California marketplace. So does that answer your question sufficiently?
Yes, I think so. And then Michelle, which I think will be our last question this evening.
Hi, so I just Googled the pay for the Kaiser CEO. It's over $6 million a year. That's actually pretty low if you compare it to PG&E's CEO, which is over $50 million a year. So there's obviously something kind of wrong with this model. And my question is, are any of these laws trying to cap any of these, CEO salaries or stockholder payouts or anything like that?
There has been a couple of instances where we and others have thought about, for example, perhaps running a proposition that would do that, because absolutely it is very constitutional for the state of California or a local jurisdiction, frankly, to be able to regulate compensation for a not-for-profit organization. Which, by the way, all these organizations that are providing the major healthcare in the county, Sutter and Kaiser, and then the ones nearby, Dignity, Providence, John Muir, Tenet, they're all paying their executives over $1 million salaries, right? Frequently multiple executives are making over, and they're all not-for-profits, right? So I have an additional point of view that something should be done to regulate not-for-profits much better than they are. But in the meantime, we have this problem to solve, which is a staffing crisis that needs to be responded to by regulating these very, very wealthy not-for-profits.
Thank you. I do not see any other hands up, so I will entertain a motion to support SB 525. And
Motion.
Okay, moved by Glenn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. Is there any further discussion? If not, launch the poll, please.
Five seconds. Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you all. We will get that letter out, and thank you, Mr. Jones, for joining us and presenting on SB 525.
Always appreciate working with the county party, and I'm looking forward to the next event you host.
All right. And the third bill before us, asking for a letter for support is actually I'm bringing forward, which is AB 957 on family law and gender identity being introduced by our own assembly member to assist our transgender, gender diverse, intersex youth with basically codifying that affirming a child's gender is in their best interest under a couple of different provisions of the law. As was said earlier, the fact sheet is still being developed for this particular bill, but hopefully the letter kind of conveyed the main points of the bill. And if I would imagine that if there's any grave errors that Tiffany might be able to correct me. But again, given the issues that our transgender and indeed the entire LGBTQ plus community, particularly our youth, are facing, this bill is a step in affirming their right
It's
to have
gender
their
affirmation, something or another.
yeah, their gender affirmation recognized and supported. So I would, if there's any,
I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
all right.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Who seconded?
Pat Smith, me.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any hands up on this one. So unless there's any comments or discussions, if we could launch the poll, please.
Okay. Minute. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all. Are there any items from the floor? Matthew.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that Ramadan starts tonight. So if you have any constituents or club members who celebrate, you'll want to think of them, give them regards.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Also another item that in chat sent to me that Bridget, who, as you know, is on the State Resolutions Committee, is holding a resolutions training at 3 p.m. on April 1st on Zoom to help anyone who's wishing to work on resolutions. You can email her at bridget.hunley@gmail.com for that Zoom link and get some guidance on drafting your resolution in the approved CDP format so that it stands a better chance of passage. Again, with that, any other comments, questions? I'm not seeing any hands up. Then I will entertain a motion to, oh, Kevin, your hand's up. You're on mute.
the Rio Vista Democratic Club will have their next Together Tuesday event at Ben's Friends of the Vine on Tuesday, April 4th. This time it'll be in the afternoon from 4:30 to 6. If any of you can come down and join us, we'd certainly enjoy having you.
Great, thank you. And I want to thank all of our clubs who are being very active in kicking off the new election cycle and holding events and getting their planning underway. And I also want to take time to say again, my appreciation to Reneel and Julia and the rest of the fundraising committee for their diligent work on planning our barbecue event coming up. It looks like it'll be a really good one. And as soon as that link is available, I want to encourage you all to buy your tickets and celebrate the good work that they're doing. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Tom.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn in solidarity with the transgender community.
Yes, I will gladly second that. Hope to see many of you at the rally on March 31st. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you all and see you next month.
Bye, Carolyn. Good luck down in LA.
Good luck, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Appreciate it.
Carolyn.
I'll see you next month.
Short and sweet.
Good
Yeah.
luck.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night, Mary Ellen. Good night, Jim Bob, aka Jerry. All right. Can I